Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our live stream. I'm Rodney Reisdorf, CEO and co-founder of Veravend, and thank you for spending a couple minutes with us today. And what we're talking about is enhancing and improving your investor experience. How can you make the experience with your investors, whether you're a GP at private equity fund, venture firm, angel syndicate, real estate investment syndicate, how can you make it more pleasing, more satisfying, and just overall enhanced? So what we're going to do is really just hit on the fact that, as we all know, in today's macroeconomic environment, competition for investor dollars is incredibly fierce. There's obviously no shortage of assets that investors can put their money in. So the question really is your investor experience exceptional, or is it just the status quo? And we'll talk a little bit about what each of those mean as we go forward. So before we do, we're just going to back up and talk about something that we probably have all heard of as far as user experience or UX. What this means is just the overall experience of a person using a product such as a website or an application, especially in terms of how easy or pleasing is it to use? What is their overall experience and how is it? Well, we're going to take this one step further and we're going to talk about IX, investor experience. So what is the overall experience of an investor interacting with their sponsor, their venture firm, their fund, their private equity group, especially in terms of how easy that is, how frictionless and how secure it is for that investor to fund capital calls, receive their distribution payments, and overall just access their investment portfolio and everything that goes along with it. Now, the status quo looks a lot like this. This is typically referred to as the tech stack that an investment sponsor would have to have in place. Everything from email communications, document sharing, signatures, whether they're electronic or the old-fashioned way, trips to the bank and visits to send wire transfers, and just static spreadsheets that collect information on investment commitments, very sensitive information like bank account information, which should never be stored in a static spreadsheet, of course. So this is what the status quo typically looks like for the investor experience. Investment sponsors are asking their investors to go to a lot of different places, manage a lot of different logins, be on the lookout for a lot of different emails, whether it's an electronic document signature or a data room or an email where a whole bunch of investors are blind carbon copied on it. It's asking a lot of the investor. And whether we like it or not, Amazon-like experiences are now the norm and are frankly now expected. Amazon-like experiences have really transformed our personal lives and made us expect that the experience, whatever we're doing, whether it's in our personal or business life, is responsive. It can be conducted on any device, wherever and whenever we are, that they're fast and they're frictionless. So what if there was a solution that included efficient investor onboarding, dynamic data rooms, integrated investment commitments, so these soft commitments didn't have to be conducted over email and through spreadsheets, included effortless electronic signatures, frictionless capital call funding, and secure distribution payments? The status quo isn't good enough and isn't just good enough anymore. And investment sponsors really need to look to solutions and platforms that are going to provide that Amazon-like frictionless, responsive, and fast experience to your investors. And that's what we're doing here at Veravend. Everything from investor onboarding all the way down to ongoing distribution payments is what we're providing to not only investment sponsors, but all of their investors, to give them a great IX, an investor experience. And that's really the question that we're asking. What's your IX? What's your investor experience? Is it just the status quo? Is it just good enough, which really isn't good enough anymore? Or is it enhanced, and is it excellent? Just to take a little look at some recent stats that we conducted last quarter in our Q4 2022 investor experience survey, we surveyed a wide range of investors through various asset classes on what was their overall satisfaction of their experience with Veravend, How easy was it to use? Would they recommend it to another peer investor or another investment sponsor they're working with? And for those that needed to contact our customer success team, what was the satisfaction of that? And you can see that resoundingly, it resulted in great experience, great feedback from investors. And just to kind of cap off that, here are some quotes directly from investors through that survey. So we're seeing a great deal of positive investor feedback, great investor experiences. And what I wanted to spend just a minute doing is showing you what this actually looks like from the investor perspective. So we're going to cut over to what the investor's perspective looks like. This is the investor portal, and everything from onboarding to commitments to capital calls to documents and data rooms to secure distribution payments is all here. So just by receiving the first item from an investment sponsor, this is where the investor has their portal automatically created. It's responsive, it's fast, it's frictionless, and it provides an all-in-one comprehensive experience. So we can see that for this specific investor, Jim Davis, he's got one commitment request that requires his attention. He's received one distribution payment through our VeriPay feature, and he's received 3 capital calls, and he's been invited to a data room through Capital Fund. So let's just go into a couple key areas of the platform and just show how easy, frictionless, and responsive this is for the investor. So called out at the very top, he has one commitment request that requires his attention. So we'll go in and review and complete that. You can see that he received a commitment request from Capital Fund. So we'll go in here and we can see that Capital Fund is assessing interest for participation in this fund. This has a minimum commitment amount of $25,000 and a maximum amount of $200,000. The commitments are due on March 31st, and it keeps a full history, just like our capital call and our distribution payment functionality, of exactly what happened and when. So as this investor reviews this commitment request, I can confirm it. I can say, you know what, I'm in for $75,000. We'll confirm that. And now I've got a committed, confirmed commitment in the platform. And what the investment sponsor is getting on their end is a real-time notification that Jim Davis confirmed his commitment of $75,000. And they can actually take all of these submitted commitments, finalize them, fine-tune them however they might need on their end. And the investment sponsor can then automatically generate capital calls and send those back out to all of the investors to have one fluid, frictionless process from issuing commitments and assessing interest in a new deal or opportunity or fund to actually funding those capital calls. So as our investor, we're going to go back to the dashboard. I can see that that notification has gone away. I can review any previous distribution payments and capital calls that I've received. So we'll go into the capital call section. I can see that Jim Davis, our investor, has participated in 3 separate investment opportunities, one with Rocket Fund, one with Fund 2, and one with an SPV. This provides a comprehensive one-to-many experience for the investor. So regardless of how many investment opportunities they're in with either your firm or other firms that are using Verivend, they only have to have one Verivend login, one Verivend account, and they can access all of their information through the platform. And when we go back to the dashboard again, I can look at all of my distribution payments. I can see that Jim Davis has received one $8,500 distribution from Fund 2. And then when we go back to the dashboard one more time, we'll take a look at the rooms area. So I can see that Jim Davis has been invited to the Capital Fund room. This will be the place where all information and documents are shared for Capital Fund investors and stakeholders. As the investment sponsor, they have the opportunity to provide ongoing updates and announcements and notifications to all their investors. This replaces the need to having to blind carbon copy all the investors on emails and then have your investors, force them to dig through their emails and figure out what you sent and when. We also have fluid document sharing. So as the investor, I can access all of the publicly accessible documents that were placed there by the fund in the public folder. I can see that there's some meeting agendas, the PPM, the subscription agreement. I can go into the quarterly reports folder. I can pull up any quarterly reports that were placed there by the fund. And then I can go into my own personal folder, which are private documents only accessible to me as the end investor, and look at my K1s or any other specific documents that are only there for me. We have full integrated real-time messaging with the rooms, just like we do on capital calls and commitments and distribution payments. I can go in here. I can see that Rodney from Capital Fund welcomed me to the room, and I'll say thanks for having me as the investor. And again, this is all just real-time fluid communication, which alleviates all of those needs of that very high and very daunting tech stack, which is typically needed to manage investors and all of the different touch points throughout the investment journey. So that's just a quick preview of what the investor experience is like in Veravend, and really how you can not only enhance but accelerate your IX, your investor experience, and provide a much more excellent, seamless, fluid, and comprehensive experience to your investors. So again, thank you for spending a couple minutes with us out of your day today. For more information, connect with me on LinkedIn, email me at rodney@veravend.com, or just go to veravend.com to learn more information. And thank you. Have a good day, everyone.